welcome to episode 78, part 2 of Africa's premier sports video podcast, the Three Quarters podcast. Also remember to jump onto the hashtag Road to Japan to support the Kenya Simbas as they are still looking to qualify for the Rugby World Cup in 2019 in Japan. I'm Demi Duffield.
And I'm Ngara Kamuya.
So, Kenyan rugby history.
Yeah.
Now we talked about, we are now in Western.
Yeah.
Mundu humu. Yeah. Yes, we know those terms.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're talking about Maseno High School.
Yeah.
This is the only school which has, well, that I've come across, that has a Luo motto. Of course, I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
It does have a Luo motto, right? And also it's the oldest formal education school in Kenya. Formed in 1906 by the Church Missionary Society. As you've aptly put it, it's located in Nyanza province. It's a national school, and they've been known to dominate rugby in Nyanza province. Them together with somebody else will preview, a school will preview called St. Mary's Yala. I mean, they've represented Nyanza province a couple of times at the nationals. I think about, at least when I was in high school in 2006, they're the ones who represented Nyanza province at the national games. I think as we speak, maybe in the last 10 years, the most famous, I would like to put it that way, alumni in terms of, from a rugby standpoint, of Maseno High School will have to be Kevin Kisori, former center Impala RFC. Actually,
him and his whole sort of squad. There's him, there's Jesse Ngesa also, was at Impala, now at Cabras. Also Brian Ahenda was there. Daniel Oswago. I can only remember them because they're his pod. But they were from Maseno.
They're from Maseno High School, so that's our school today.
Maseno
High School, located in Nyanza province.
Okay. So now we move on to the ongoings in regards to the union. The Kenya Rugby Union. And Make It Kenya are back on as sponsors. Now, but even before we move on to the resignation of Murray Ralston, how did Make It Kenya come back on?
Brand Kenya, actually.
The
slogan is Make It Kenya. So after last week's episode, and when we discussed about how Innocent Simiyu was fired, I found out later on he hadn't been fired. There was actually no termination letter. So it became a national fiasco because everyone took onto it, and people made noise about the fact that they'd sacked Innocent Simiyu. And the tourism CS, Najib Balala, had actually cancelled the contract between the Kenya Rugby Union and Brand Kenya. So I think, Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Rashid Echesa, called for a meeting with the Kenya Sevens team. They sat down, and it was agreed that Innocent Simiyu would be reinstated, and that they would then he would talk to the tourism ministry to renew the sponsorship or to continue the sponsorship Brand Kenya had with the Kenya Rugby Union. So last week on Thursday, the Shujaa team went to meet the tourism CS. From what I hear, it wasn't really a pretty meeting, but they were able to iron out their issues. And so Brand Kenya decided to come back on board and continue the sponsorship of the Sevens team. While some part of me does agree with the fact that, yes, maybe it wasn't a good move on what the players did, because the issues the players had was with the union. Yes, maybe they went about it the wrong way, but sometimes I feel like it needed to happen because I think the union has been riding people for too long. And yes, it didn't need to happen. It didn't happen in the right way, but it did need to happen. Something needed to happen, and some exposure needed to happen with regard to the work that's in the Kenya Rugby Union. So it's good to have Brand Kenya back on board, and it's good to have them back in the Shujaa team, who, as we speak right now, I wish it changes. No offense to Shujaa, but I wish it changes. But they're our brand ambassadors when it comes to rugby. So yeah, it's good. It's good that Brand Kenya back on board.
I mean, now you've said that maybe it wasn't the best way to do this, but what I do think is that it got the right people looking at it. It got the right type of attention. And something was done after that.
And I can tell it's a result. I mean, over the weekend when Simbas were playing in Zimbabwe, Cabinet Secretary Sports Rashid Echesa was there. There was a whole host of government officials who were there. Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, despite being a rugby fan, was also there. So I could tell, and I can tell this Brand Kenya thing is one that has generated the interest in having government officials coming. But you see, my biggest issue with government, I come from the school of thought where government shouldn't be giving out money to sports. But my issue with government is that they don't hold these union officials accountable for the money that they're given. And I think that's what Brand Kenya need to do. They need to, take the Kenya Rugby Union to task with regard to the money that they're giving them. So it's good. Any sort of corporate sponsorship that comes into the game is good. And we can't. Thank you.
I mean, we can't say that we don't need them.
Yes.
We definitely do.
Yes.
But now moving on to the next issue, which is the resignation of assistant coach, Kenya Simba's assistant coach, Murray ROULSTON. And this is because, he said, payment.
Yes.
And it's funny because, he'll say, I haven't been paid. And then a union official, I will not, say who, will say, no, but we paid you.
Yes.
Or they'll put out a statement that, we paid them. So, what's going on with the payment? Basically, as in, because who do you believe now? You're sitting there as a fan, of course the players know what's happening, but as a fan, as an outsider, you're sitting there and one person says, I haven't been paid, so I'm leaving. And, the union says, no, but we have paid you. So what do you think of that whole situation?
I was at the press conference and Murray ROULSTON decided to resign, or announced his resignation. It was very haphazard. No one really expected it. After the team naming had happened, he just picked up the microphone and said, I'd like to notify you that I've resigned as assistant coach, my position as assistant coach, and I'm serving my 1 month notice. So of course the press conference changed from the team naming to addressing the issue about Murray ROULSTON. So he was interviewed by KTN and he said they hadn't been paid, or hadn't been paid some dues. I don't know if they've been paid now. There was the issue of the work permit. Their work permits have never been sorted out. I know for a fact that the Simbas were supposed to go to South Africa maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago just to warm up. Had they gone, Murray ROULSTON and Ian Snook would have been unable to travel because of their work permit issues. So he said there's just a myriad of problems in the union, and but non-payment was the main reason why he left. And afterwards, just got into discussions, and I told him, look, yes, we are going to lose, and we're losing something very big in Murray ROULSTON. From a technical standpoint, and I hear the nonsense people talking about outside there, we can do it on ourselves. No, we can't. From a technical standpoint, Ian Snook himself told me that Ian Snook was part of the coaching team for the Brumbies when Brumbies were legendary in the late 90s, and Eddie Jones was their head coach. And he told me, I have worked with Eddie Jones, I have coached with Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones is a brilliant rugby mind, but Eddie Jones doesn't even measure up to what Murray ROULSTON knows in terms of rugby. So that's what we are losing because of this nonsense and shenanigans that happen in Kenya. And there's another story I also picked up that, just to show you how nuts union sometimes can be, about 3 years ago, the person who's the director of rugby, or high performance director in Namibia, had been seconded by World Rugby to Kenya, and he was going to be paid by World Rugby to come to Kenya to develop the game. You know what the union said? Give us the money, we'll look for that person. And that's just the nonsense that I'm talking about, and that's the nonsense that is affecting, and I think that's the reason why Murray ROULSTON has quit. He personally told me that he's coached in Trinidad and Tobago, he's coached in Jamaica, he's coached in third world countries. This is the worst treatment he's gotten in the years he's been coaching. So we are losing something good. It's unfortunate that he had to go, but just as I told him, as much as, yes, we are sad that you're leaving, some things need to happen. You know what the most unfortunate thing is, Damema? This story is going to die down. No one is going to talk about it, and the cycle is going to keep continuing. Kenya Rugby.
I think in terms of coaching, and in terms of people saying that we can do it on our own or whatever, I think one thing that people need to remember is that, even for Ian Snook and Murray ROULSTON, there was a point in their careers where not that they are the best, but there was a point where even they knew, I am not the best at this. If someone else was to come from a different country, they would be better than me, and I would want to learn from them. I'm not taking anything away from our local coaches. They are good coaches. We've seen what they can do, but even they need to learn. I remember when we had a conversation with Curtis Olago, and he's coached his team KCB to the finals now how many times? And they've won.
Yes. Yeah.
But even he knows that I can learn from these guys.
Yes.
And I can, when we go to South Africa, I can learn from them.
Yes.
Like, you should never sit somewhere and think, you know what, we can do this.
Yes.
We've got the guys.
Yeah.
It's like you can always learn from someone else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you can learn. It's unfortunate, but what do we do? It's happened. We move on.
Yep.
Just a message to everyone. I mean, boycotting the games does not affect the union. It affects the players. But it's your choice. If you choose to do that, by all means, go ahead and do it. But most importantly, people don't know that the ones who hold the key. Because the road starts from scratch. We choose club officials, who then go on to vote for union officials who secure their own personal interests. So that's where the problem is. The problem is us, by the way. Let's stop making noise. Let's fix the problem where the road.
That's a very key point.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start from club officials, we are bribed.
Yes.
to get to appoint club officials.
Yeah.
And then we expect them to do something different. It's like no. That's where it starts.
Exactly.
Anyway, we could go on and on about that. Now we move into the international rugby scene.
Yeah.
And Super Rugby is back.
Yep.
So our feature game was Rebels versus Waratahs.
Yeah.
Waratahs winning 31-26.
Yeah.
Now this just reminds me of how kicks really count.
Yes.
As in, because for the Waratahs, they had 4 conversions for all their tries.
Yeah.
But what kept the Rebels back in the game, well, one is discipline.
Yeah.
But they managed to get in 4 kicks for penalties, basically.
Yeah.
So that kept them in the game, and I don't know what you have to say.
Which is why you say, infringements, penalties, kicks, points.
Yep.
Simple. And then Rebels were able to keep within touching distance of the Waratahs, but the Waratahs were just a class outfit. Bernard Foley, Cutley, Bill had a blind over game. It was the first time game was being played in Melbourne after a very long time. So week 17 of the Super Rugby. Super Rugby is back. International season is over. So week 17, other results, we have the Blues beating the Reds 39-16. We have the Highlanders losing to the Chiefs 22-45. We have the Brumbies beating the Canes 24-12. We have Sunwolves beating the Blue Bulls 42-37. We have the Sharks beating the Lions 31-24. And the Jaguares beating the Stormers 25-14.
Well, that's it for this episode, basically.
Yep.
But guys, remember, if you've got something to tell us, while we love it when you engage us on our individual pages, we're also, as a podcast, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So you can do this by following us on Instagram, liking our page on Facebook, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. I'm Demi Duffield.
And I'm Ngaro Kamuya.
I'll see you in part 3. Or we'll see you.